Welcome back inside the Buffalo Bisons Hall of Fame room, just inside the Swan Street Gate for another edition of Curator's Corner. And joining me is the curator of the Buffalo Bisons Hall of Fame room, John Boutet. And John, we talked today about baseball cards. I think something everybody, from little kids to older folks, can really relate to.
Oh, absolutely. Baseball cards are a really hot topic here in the Hall of Fame. The great thing about baseball cards, it knows no age. I mean, you can start when you're a little kid, and you can collect them all the way up into your in their 50s and 60s. So it's really cool to talk about baseball cards. And everybody, like you said, remembers collecting those cards when they were little, and they'd get a quarter, and they'd run up to 7-Eleven. And I used to do that, and that's kind of how I started in collecting.
And it really has evolved because it wasn't always looking at the back and seeing a player's stat line from start to finish.
Absolutely. When cards started in the 1860s, they were called trade cards. They were basically a business card for a dealer. Ownership of some kind of store would put out a card with a picture, like over here. This would be considered the first baseball cards from the 1860s, and it would be usually an advertisement on the back for a store or something like that to pass out to customers. And then around the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, believe it or not, they were put in cigarette packs, and they were called cigarette cards. They weren't really called baseball cards or gum cards yet, but they were put in cigarette packs. And you can take a look at the famous Hannes Wagner card. Here was part of that cigarette era, so which is kind of cool.
And most folks know the story about it, but that is really the most sought-after card that there is out there.
Absolutely. The Hannes Wagner, there's only around 70 examples in the world. Believe it or not, it's not the rarest card. The rarest card would probably be the Eddie Plank card, which was from the same actual set. So there's actually less Eddie Plank cards, but for numerous reasons, the Wagner card has really been the one that everybody has searched for.
And you talk about, being a kid and picking up a pack of cards, you remember the gum in them, or nowadays it's so unique where you can find a piece of a player's bat in a card.
Yeah, they've replaced the gum with things like that, with pieces of bats or pieces of jerseys or signatures, things like that, to make it a little more enticing. I think it's just a reason to jack the price up, but they've gotten rid of the gum. Gum cards started in around the 1920s. They were called caramel cards, and then later on put packs of gum. So we got some great examples here, and the Buffalo ones especially are some of my favorites. So the Cracker Jack ones over there started in the early 19-teens, 1914, 1915, which is kind of cool.
It's absolutely cool, and you look at it, just the colors and just the way they were produced just makes them look that much more special.
I think you're right. I think through the years, artwork has played a big part in baseball cards and the popularity of cards. Everybody wants a nice, colorful, great example of a card. You don't want anything dull. You don't want anything that's two color. You want something that pops. And usually the company that came out with the coolest looking cards sold the most cards. So, yeah, really cool baseball cards. I love to talk about cards.
And we got some other examples here, too, of just some classic players throughout the years and just the iconic look of these cards, too.
Very iconic. Every year they would switch their design around to create a buzz. There were several different companies that produced cards in the golden age of baseball cards. Topps was the biggest one. Bowman was another one. Fleer was another one. But Topps stood the test of time. They were the one that outlasted just about everybody else. And the Topps cards are usually the most collectible cards. The Mantle 1952 Topps card is just a fabulous card, and everybody looks for that Mantle card.
No doubt, and you can find cards here inside the Hall of Fame room, and you can come see the Hall of Fame room an hour before each ball game when the gates open inside the Swan Street Gate. With another edition of Curator's Corner for John Boutet, I'm Pat Malacaro.